There's a quiet kind of pain that most of us have felt. When you start to wonder if someone's truly in your life, or if they're just in it for what you give them. It's not loud. It doesn't come with alarms. It begins with little things. The compliment that feels off, the promise that fades, the silence that follows your success, the way your joy becomes their discomfort. At first, you tell yourself not to overthink it. You give them the benefit of the doubt because you want to believe the best in people. You've always tried to be kind, generous, loyal, but slowly a question creeps in. Are they here for me, or just what I provide? It's a question that can shake your core, and yet asking it is not a weakness. It's strength. It's the first sign that your inner compass is waking up. Because the truth is, manipulation doesn't always come with a raised voice. Sometimes it's dressed in smiles, in affection, in charm. And the more empathetic you are, the more likely you are to be targeted. That's where Stoicism enters, not as a wall, but as a lens, a way to see clearly without becoming cold, to stay soft without being used, to remain open without staying vulnerable to harm. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This video isn't about judgment. It's about clarity, not about building walls, but knowing where the door is. So if you've ever felt the ache of being used, you're not alone, and you're not powerless. Let's begin this journey, not to cut people off, but to walk into every relationship with open eyes, a strong heart, and your peace of mind fully intact. You know the moment. You've just shared something important, something you built, something you dreamed about, a goal, a small win, a step forward, and instead of feeling seen, you feel dismissed. They shrug, they joke, they shift the subject, or worse, they look you in the eye and say, "That's it?" It stings, doesn't it? But the sting doesn't come from the words alone. It's the silence behind them, the lack of celebration, the cold absence of joy in a moment that was supposed to be yours. And that's where the first sign shows up. Not in what they do loudly, but in what they withhold quietly. Because people who care don't hold back their support. They don't downplay your light to feel taller in your shadow. They don't weaponize indifference to keep you small. That's not humility. That's control. And it's a subtle form of manipulation many of us miss, especially those of us raised to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to explain other people's cruelty away as maybe they're just tired. We make excuses for the people who are quietly draining us. But here's the truth that Stoicism reveals. Their words don't define you. Their reactions don't reflect your worth. They reflect something else entirely, their own insecurity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good. Not in their approval, not in their applause." So the next time someone downplays your joy, you don't need to fight them. You don't need to explain yourself. You just need to remember, your joy is yours. Your vision doesn't require their permission. Your milestones are real even if they don't clap. You get to grow without asking anyone for permission. That is your power. And no one, no matter how subtle, gets to make you feel small for choosing to shine. So hold your peace, stand tall, and let your growth speak louder than their silence. Because in the Stoic path of self-respect, you don't engage in petty battles, you outgrow them. There's something seductive about promises. They sparkle. They make you feel seen, wanted, valued. But a promise without action is just decoration. It's like a beautifully wrapped gift box, empty inside. You've probably met someone like this. They speak with passion, warmth, conviction. They talk about all the things you'll do together, how much they care, how deeply they understand you. And for a moment, you believe it. Not because you're naive, but because you want to believe. Then time passes, and those words stay words. The plans get pushed, the help they offered, forgotten. The "I've got your back" turns into "I didn't think it was that serious," and there you are, left holding the weight of the expectation they built but never intended to carry. Stoicism offers a painful but powerful truth here. Only action defines character. Anyone can say, "I'm here for you," but only those who show up consistently, quietly, when it matters, truly mean it. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't say, "Talk like one." He said, "Be one." So when you notice this pattern, when someone's words float like a promise but never land as action, take note. This is not a misunderstanding. It's a mirror. It reflects who they are when no one is watching. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to punish. Just pay attention. Their inconsistency is already the answer you're looking for. Here's what Stoicism teaches us to do in this moment. Step back. Detach. Let their actions speak, and listen closely. Because people show you their truth, not in how they speak, but in how they follow through. And if the follow-through is always missing, then so is the respect. Let go of trying to fix or explain them. You are not here to manage other people's potential. You are here to protect your peace. And sometimes, protecting your peace means believing what their behavior is already telling you. You are allowed to walk away from people who only build houses in your mind, but never lay a single brick in reality. You don't owe your energy to the idea of someone. Reserve it for those who actually show up. That's not cold. That's clarity. You're always the one who shows up, the first to answer the call, the last to leave when someone's in need. You carry the weight. You make the effort. You forgive before they ask. You give more than you should, because deep down, you believe that's what good people do. And maybe you learned that love means sacrifice. Maybe you were taught to never say no. Maybe you thought that being available made you valuable. But over time, the imbalance starts to ache. You begin to notice. When it's your turn to need, there's silence. When you reach out, they're busy. When your world starts to fall apart, you find yourself standing alone in the wreckage you helped them out of so many times before. That is not love. That is not friendship. That is not respect. It is a transaction they never planned to repay. And here's where Stoicism becomes your compass. True Stoic strength is not about giving endlessly. It's about knowing when to stop pouring into cups that never pour back. It's not selfish to need support. It's not cruel to expect balance. Stoicism teaches us that respect begins with self-respect. If you're always the strong one, ask yourself this: who's strong for you? And if that list is painfully short, then maybe it's time to ask a better question. Why are you carrying this alone? You don't have to make a scene. You don't have to explain your worth. You simply need to remember, you are not a utility. You are a human being. Being there for others is beautiful, but not if it comes at the cost of disappearing yourself. In relationships, generosity should not become a disguise for someone else's convenience. When the giving is always yours and the receiving is always theirs, you are not in a relationship. You are in service. And that's not love. That's imbalance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste what remains of your life in speculating about others, unless it has some benefit for the common good. And constantly giving to those who don't see you, that's not for the common good. That's for their comfort. So if you've been the one carrying too much, pause. Look around. Ask yourself, who helps me breathe? And if the answer is no one, that's your sign. Pull back, not to punish, but to protect. You were not born to be everyone's foundation while they build skyscrapers on your back. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve rest. You deserve to be held too. So set the boundary, stand firm, and give from a full heart, not from an empty cup. That is the Stoic path. Not cold, not closed, just clear. It's not always the loud things that hurt the most. Sometimes it's what you don't hear, the words that never come, the hugs that are always just out of reach, the silence when you needed to be seen. You try to speak, to open up, to share a piece of your heart. But it feels like your words vanish the moment they leave your lips. You tell yourself they're distracted, busy. Maybe they didn't mean it. But over time, a quiet truth begins to settle. They hear you. They just don't care enough to listen. This is emotional neglect, and it's one of the most invisible forms of control, because it doesn't come with screaming or violence. It comes with nothing, and nothing can be its own kind of weapon. It keeps you second-guessing. It makes you feel too much while being told you're too sensitive. It convinces you that your needs are too heavy, that your emotions are inconvenient. But Stoicism teaches us something radically different. Your emotions aren't a burden. They are signals. They're messages from within. And ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. It just makes you disappear. When someone consistently meets your joy with indifference and your pain with silence, they're not just bad at emotions. They are making a choice not to see you, a choice not to engage, a choice to keep the power in the relationship by giving you just enough to make you stay, but never enough to feel whole. This is not connection. It's control. And the most painful part? You start shrinking yourself just to keep them close. You speak less, need less, feel less, until there's almost nothing left of you. But Stoicism, real Stoicism, is not about suppressing emotions. It's about honoring them wisely, feeling without reacting blindly, listening to the quiet voice within that says, "This doesn't feel right." Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." So think clearly. If someone consistently neglects your emotions, you don't need to fight for their attention. You need to fight for your own presence, to come back to yourself, to step out of the silence that's been used to hold you small. You don't need to become louder. You need to become clearer. Clear about your boundaries. Clear about what you will and won't accept. And if they continue to stay distant, let them. But you don't disappear with them. You rise. You speak. You feel fully, even if they refuse to meet you there. Because the relationship that matters most is the one you have with your own soul. At first, it feels good. The compliments are unexpected, sweet, thoughtful, almost perfect. You start to let your guard down. You feel seen, even special. Then slowly, it shifts. One day it's a joke about something personal. The next, it's a backhanded comment. You used to be more fun. Or maybe it's something smaller like, "I'm only saying this because I care." And just like that, you're caught. Not in a fight, but in a pattern, a dangerous one, where praise becomes a reward and criticism becomes control, where you begin to crave the highs, not because they're real, but because the lows have made you forget your worth. This is how emotional manipulation works. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It wraps itself in care. It makes you feel like you're the unstable one, but you're not. You're just stuck in someone else's cycle, a game of psychological push and pull that keeps you hungry for the approval they grant and take away at will. And here's what Stoicism cuts through with absolute clarity. You are not defined by how others treat you. Your value does not go up and down based on the mood of the person standing next to you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That includes how you respond to praise and how you respond to criticism. Both are external. Both can be used to distract, flatter, or weaken. But your center, that calm, steady core within you, that's yours. So the next time someone lifts you up only to knock you down again, step back. Don't explain. Don't perform. Don't try harder to earn their kindness. Instead, notice the pattern. Feel what it's doing to you. And walk away from the cycle before it becomes your emotional home. Because you deserve better than a love that comes with a price tag, than a friendship that measures your worth in moments of usefulness, than a connection that builds and breaks you in the same breath. You are not a puppet, and their approval is not the air you need to breathe. Stoicism doesn't teach us to be emotionless. It teaches us to be sovereign, to be aware, to be still inside the storm. And in that stillness, you'll see what you couldn't before. You were never hard to love. You were just standing in the wrong place, hoping for someone to stay steady when their foundation was already cracked. So step away, reclaim your balance, and let your peace become your boundary. That's not weakness. That's power. Quiet, grounded, and deeply your own. You remember the good days, the smiles, the shared stories, the group photos. Everything felt solid until it wasn't. Because when life got messy, when the phone call came, when your hands trembled, when grief sat heavy on your chest, they disappeared. No message, no call, no knock at the door. People you thought would stand beside you vanish like shadows when the light fades. At first, you make excuses for them. They must be busy. They don't know what to say. But deep down, they chose not to show up. That choice says more than any apology ever could. And it hurts. Not just because you needed help, but because they said they cared. Stoicism doesn't deny that pain. It meets it with clear eyes. It reminds us, we cannot control who stays. We can only control how we carry ourselves when others leave. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. So here's the estimate. If someone's loyalty depends on convenience, it was never loyalty. Real support doesn't vanish in the storm. It becomes the umbrella. It becomes the steady voice saying, I've got you. When that voice is missing, the silence is its own kind of message. One that says, you mattered until it got hard. But you, my friend, you don't crumble in that silence. You rise. Stoicism teaches us that resilience isn't just surviving. It's choosing how you respond when the world lets you down. So if you've faced abandonment in your darkest hour, let that pain shape you, but not harden you. Let it sharpen your discernment. Let it teach you what real support looks like. Because one day, you'll meet someone who won't run, who won't disappear, who sees you drowning and swims toward you without hesitation. Until then, be that person for yourself. Anchor inward. Build the kind of inner support system that doesn't crack when others walk away. Because not everyone is meant to walk the whole path with you. Some are only here for the sunshine. Let them go with grace. And when the storm comes again, you'll know who's real. You won't need to ask. You'll feel it in how they stay. They say, it's give and take. But what if you're always the one giving? You offer your time, you adjust your schedule, you listen, you help, you show up. And then, when the moment comes, when you need something, they're silent. Or worse, they say, you're strong, you got this, and maybe you do. But that's not the point. Because strength should not be an excuse for neglect, and love should never be one-sided. Still, you hesitate to bring it up. You don't want to seem needy. You tell yourself, maybe they're just not good at showing up. But somewhere inside, you know the truth. They take more than they give, and they've been doing it for a long time. That's not an accident. That's a dynamic. And dynamics only stay alive when both people play their roles. This is where Stoicism steps in. Not to blame, but to wake you up. It reminds you that your choices are within your control, not theirs, yours. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't expect others to behave as you would. You will only exhaust yourself." So the moment you recognize this imbalance, don't spiral. Don't beg for change. Don't keep score. Instead, realign. Because what you allow is what will continue. You see, reciprocity isn't about tit for tat. It's about emotional safety. Knowing that if you fall, someone will catch you. That if you give, it will not become expected, but appreciated. And when that appreciation disappears, so does the balance. So ask yourself, not, are they doing enough? But, am I constantly overextending just to feel barely seen? If the answer is yes, it's time to shift. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to become bitter. You simply need to protect your energy like it actually matters. Because it does. You are not a permanent source of light for people who can't even strike a match for you. And if they pull away when you stop giving, then their presence was never based on connection. It was based on convenience. Stoicism teaches us to find peace not in other people's behavior, but in our own alignment with virtue, with clarity, with courage. And sometimes courage means letting go of a connection you kept alive on your own. You deserve people who don't need to be reminded that love is a two-way street, that respect isn't earned through sacrifice alone. You deserve to be met, not just tolerated. And when you stop chasing one-sided bonds, you create space for something real. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with warning. Sometimes it walks in smiling. Sometimes it wears the face of someone you trusted, someone you let in, someone you thought was safe. And when it hits, it doesn't just hurt your heart. It shakes your faith in judgment, in people. Sometimes, even in yourself. You ask, how could I not see this coming? Why didn't I listen to the signs? But here's the truth. Most betrayal isn't about blindness. It's about belief. You believed in someone's better side. You saw what they could be, not just what they were. And Stoicism meets you in that space, not to judge, but to recenter. Because betrayal isn't about you. It's a reflection of their character, not a verdict on yours. Marcus Aurelius said, "When another blames you or hates you, turn to their soul, understand what kind of person they are, and you'll realize there's no need to be upset." That doesn't mean betrayal doesn't hurt. It does. But hurt doesn't have to become bitterness. It doesn't have to calcify into anger. Stoicism teaches us to pause, to see clearly, to choose our response, even in the face of deep violation. Because here's the paradox. You gain power the moment you stop trying to make sense of their choices and start making peace with your own. You stop asking, why did they do this? And start asking, what will I do now? You choose dignity over vengeance, grace over obsession, boundaries over explanations. That's not weakness. That's strength with its volume turned down. And in that silence, you rebuild. You don't rebuild by trusting blindly again. But you also don't lock every door. You become wiser, not colder. You let experience shape you, but not harden you. Because even after betrayal, life continues. And somewhere ahead, there are people who will not betray you. People whose words and actions match, whose loyalty doesn't dissolve when tested. But you'll never find them if betrayal becomes your identity. So carry the scar, but don't carry the story. Leave behind the questions that don't serve you, and hold on to the values that do. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose next. One day they're all in. Messages, smiles, attention, affection. It feels warm, safe, real. Then, silence. No replies, excuses, coldness wrapped in busyness, a digital ghost of someone who once felt close. But just when you begin to pull back, they return. Suddenly attentive, suddenly available, like nothing ever happened. It's confusing. It feels like maybe you imagined the distance, so you try harder, reach out more, make sense of the mixed signals. And that's exactly where they want you. Uncertain, off balance, hungry for consistency they never planned to give. This is called selective availability, a subtle form of manipulation that feeds on unpredictability. It's not always cruel. Sometimes it's charming. But it always has one goal: control. Because when someone controls when they appear and when they disappear, they also begin to control how you feel about yourself. Your self-worth becomes tied to their rhythm. Your peace becomes conditional. You wait and wonder. And that wondering robs you of your power. Stoicism doesn't tell you to cut people off at the first sign of inconsistency. But it does tell you this: your time and attention are sacred. And anyone who plays with them like toys is not treating you with respect. Marcus Aurelius said, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." And chasing after someone who's only available when it suits them will make you do both. Because over time, you'll notice something. You're doing all the reaching. You're holding space for two. You're bending so the connection won't break. And they're barely lifting a finger. That's not intimacy. That's imbalance covered in affection. The moment you start to feel like you're being put on hold, you probably are. And your worth isn't a subscription they get to pause and resume at will. So what do? You stop dancing to their rhythm. You slow down. You observe. You reclaim your pace. You stop rewarding inconsistency with more effort, because when someone truly values you, you don't have to wonder. Their presence is steady, not dramatic. Their words are backed by action, not silence. Stoicism reminds us that boundaries aren't walls. They're clarity. And clarity is a gift. You don't need to get angry. You don't need to chase. You just need to notice the pattern and choose differently. You deserve people who don't make you question your place. You deserve peace that doesn't depend on someone else's mood. So the next time they disappear and reappear like a trick of light, don't reach, don't beg, don't explain. Just stay still and see who stays with you. No is a small word, but for many of us, it's the hardest one to say, because we've been conditioned to please, to be agreeable, to stay likable, to avoid conflict, no matter the cost to ourselves. So we say yes when we're tired. We say yes when we mean no. We stretch, we bend, we overextend until our own needs feel like a burden we're afraid to carry. But here's what Stoicism teaches us with gentle firmness. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. Saying no is not rejection. It's protection of your time, your peace, your energy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Being good doesn't mean being passive. It means being intentional. And sometimes being intentional means choosing discomfort over resentment, choosing self-respect over approval. The truth is, people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always label them as selfish once you finally set them. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to honor your limits, to say this far and no further, not with rage, not with coldness, but with calm, unwavering self-awareness. Because here's what happens when you start saying no. You reclaim space, space to think, to rest, to grow, to be present with people and things that truly nourish you. You start realizing that not everyone deserves access to you. That availability isn't proof of love. It's often proof of lack of boundaries. You start feeling less guilty about not showing up for others because you're finally showing up for yourself. And slowly, guilt gives way to grace. Because you're no longer running on empty. You're no longer saying yes out of fear. You're saying yes when it aligns with your values. And that makes your yes more honest and more powerful. So, if you've struggled to say no, if you felt like protecting your peace makes you a bad person, remember this. You are not responsible for how others interpret your boundaries. You are only responsible for honoring your truth. And people who genuinely care for you will adjust. They may not like it at first, but they will respect it because they respect you. Stoicism isn't about isolation. It's about inner alignment. And saying no, when necessary, is one of the most radical acts of inner alignment you can practice. So say no, not out of spite, but out of self-awareness. Say no, because you're finally done betraying yourself just to make others comfortable. Say no, and watch your peace return. You've just walked through the quiet, often painful corners of human connection, the silences, the half-kept promises, the invisible patterns that chip away at your worth. But you've also walked with a compass, not to run from people, not to fear closeness, but to return to yourself, clearer, steadier, stronger. Because here's the truth. Not everyone who smiles has your back. Not everyone who stays deserves to. And yet that realization doesn't have to harden you. It can shape you. It can help you protect your energy without apology. Set boundaries without guilt. Choose connection without confusion. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stop feeling. It asks you to stop bleeding for those who keep cutting. And that shift from reaction to awareness, from chaos to clarity, is what makes you free. So before you go, ask yourself this. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing people who make you question your place? Take that thought. Sit with it. Let it guide you as you move forward. And if this video resonated with you, if something in it helped you see yourself more clearly, I invite you to stay, subscribe, leave a comment, Share your thoughts, not because I asked, but because your voice matters, and someone out there might need to hear what you have to say. And remember, you are not cold because you protect your peace. You are not selfish because you say no. You are not unloving because you refuse to be used. You're just finally aligned, calm, steady, rooted in the most powerful place of all, the quiet certainty of your own worth. Stay strong, stay aware, and above all, stay stoic.